So I don't know how many people are actually watching these things. I mean, obviously, I can see that there are views and new followers, but not really sure how entertaining this is. But if there's anything that you're interested in hearing about or you'd like to hear me discuss, please make suggestions. Happy to talk about anything. And please subscribe and follow me on this channel. I'm just going to be throwing these things out once a week and just talking about whatever comes to my mind with regard to the business and acting and getting back into things. So I figured I would just start out, at the beginning in where I started. I know there's probably a few young actors out there who are wanting to get into business or thinking about it. And it's all very overwhelming when you first start out because you don't know where to start and what to do and how to get started, right? And how to get that momentum going. So I figured out a lot of that stuff through years of working on the other side of the camera and seeing a lot of actors go through that at the beginning. And so I kind of had a pretty good idea what I needed to do. And so this is how I got started. Talk a little bit about that. Now, a lot of this has to do with film and TV acting. But, that's eventually how I landed my agent and my union cards and all of that stuff that got me eventually into theater. So let's see. As a young actor, I remember thinking that, the first thing that I had to do was I had to get my union card, right? That was everything. I had to do that. I had to get my union card. And then the casting directors would just, come out of the woodwork and just start hiring me for stuff, right? If I was in equity and I was in SAG, that's all you needed. And then the jobs would just come rolling in because obviously I'm the most talented actor in Hollywood or, on stage. So of course they're going to want me. What I came to learn was that there was 5 things that I needed before I could get started. I needed headshots. I needed an actor's reel. I needed an actor's access account. I needed an agent, and I needed my union card. Now, once I got all these things together, only then was I ready to start the journey. One of the things that I learned really early on was that sadly, just having talent isn't enough in this town. Because there are thousands of actors out there that look just like me who have talent. And so what I had to figure out was how I was going to make myself stand out in a sea of faces that look just like mine. And strangely enough, in those 5 things, I figured out that there were ways to make myself stand out above and beyond to catch the attention of the casting director. Because otherwise I was just going to be another face in the crowd. And the other thing that I figured out real quick was that nobody was going to do it for me. I had to do it on my own. And so many times that I've seen so many of my actor friends, they'll come and they'll do a few of these things and they'll get their SAG card and they'll get their headshots and, they'll kind of put together a reel and get up on Actors Access and then they'll kind of sit back and go, okay, now I'll wait for the work to come in. And I'll wait for my agent to do everything for me. And then no work comes in and they don't get any auditions and they're sitting back and going, oh, I don't understand, like what's going on? Because the trick is that I figured out that my agent is a great resource and all these things are great resources, but nobody cares more about my career than I do. I also figured out really early on that there are these catch-22s in entertainment that you can't get around. Now, the casting directors won't see you unless you have an agent. But the agents won't represent you unless you got your SAG card. But you can't get your SAG card unless you get a job, a speaking role, a lead role in a show. But you can't get your SAG card unless you get a role, but you can't get a role without a casting director, but you can't see the casting director without the agent. You can't, you see what's going on here? See this catch-22 that's happening? So what you have to do, and what I had to figure out was how do I start the process of breaking through this catch-22? How do I break into this? Well, the first thing that I figured out was that I had to get headshots. I had to really get really good headshots. And I had to start putting a reel together before I could even think about approaching an agent or a manager. And so what I did was, the first thing I did was I went and I started asking around. And of course, you know, being a young actor and being broke, I was like, well, where do I get headshots? And you know, the best resources that you can ask is other actor friends and look at their headshots. So of course I had a friend of a friend who was a photographer and who was going to give me a great deal, and you know, he does portraits and blah blah blah. And here was the trick. He wasn't a headshot photographer. Yes, he was going to give me a good deal, but you really need to find a headshot photographer, and I didn't realize that. And so I spent my first, you know, little chunk of money on headshots with a guy who didn't know what he was doing. I mean, he took nice pictures, but you really, really do need somebody who specifically specializes in headshots. And I got the pictures back and I was like, all right, I got my headshots and they look pretty good and I'm happy with them. And I started sending them out, you know, and submitting them to non-union projects because I wasn't union yet. And I wasn't getting anything back and I wasn't hearing anything and I couldn't figure out what was going on. So I wound up going to a friend of mine who was a manager. Now, obviously, he wasn't interested in representing me because I wasn't ready for representation yet. You know, Jeffrey Brooks, who owns Red Rock Entertainment, and he was kind enough to give me a little bit of help and advice to this end. And what he said was, look, you need headshots that are going to, in a glance, tell a story about you. So whatever that is, and whether it's you know, the mean headshot, or the businessman, or the comedy guy, or whatever, in a glance, the casting director knows exactly who that character is. You can't just give these generic headshots. And I started looking at all the headshots that I had, and lo and behold, they were all just these kind of generic, you know, hey, you know, shots of me that really told no story about who the character was. So he referred me to a photographer that he used for his clients. And I went and did a session with her and I got these shots back and they just popped. Like it was, whoa, okay, I get this now. I get it now. And I started sending those out and all of a sudden I started getting, you know, hits. I started getting nibbles, right, from casting directors for non-union shoots again, and for managers and things like that. And I took those out to my commercial agent to get to commercial agents, and I'll talk a little bit about that process in a little bit later. But the first thing I did was go for commercial agents, and that's how I landed my first commercial agent with these headshots. Now, to be clear, these weren't the shots that with, you know, like in the doctor's smock with the stethoscope, or the construction worker with the construction hat and the shovel, and you know, it wasn't that kind of a thing. That's not what he was talking about. These were just very kind of general, dramatic shots for theatrical, right? For theatrical representation and theatrical stuff. Those kind of things with the stethoscope and the doctor and the construction worker, those are good for commercial. But I knew that was something that I wanted to wait for until I got a commercial agent. I didn't want to jump straight into that and let my commercial agent tell me what kind of pictures that he or she wanted from me. So that's not what that was. So the next thing I had to start doing was I needed to start building a reel. And if you don't know what a reel is, it's all of your acting stuff. Who am I? Who the fuck are you?
Of course.
Oh.
You don't remember me. I am the cook.
Huh? Why don't you untie me, bitch?
I hope you brought your appetite. Namaste, motherfucker.
Hi, I'm Nia. I'm here to embody Valentina.
You're early.
I'm Jamaican.
Good for you.
Hey.
And if you want to do stage, you do need a reel too. You need some kind of a reel. It's a little harder with stage because a lot of times shows are copywritten and they're not allowed to videotape. And how do you get that reel? If you have the ability, have somebody shoot you doing what you do on stage, particularly singing.
You might think beauty comes in spring and sparrow, or when the sunrise hits the morning dew. But if you walk the straight and narrow, you'll find the elegance and comfort is Do you know what the most beautiful thing in the world is, Charlie?
A shoe.
A shoe.
What was that? Blast it all, the never goal. Standing there, not 3 feet tall, barking orders from the bridge of Gold Cottage. Never in my life have I been spoken to by a woman in such a fashion. Who does she think she is?
Stage and theater agents do want to see you on stage and being able to sing, and a lot of times they are going to want to attach that kind of stuff to your submissions. So you're going to have to need that. You don't need a lot for that. Film and television, you need a good reel. You need a good reel that's going to show you how you look on film, right? I mean, it's a huge thing. The it factor and being able to fill a screen is a really legitimate thing. Like, you can't teach it. You can't learn it. It's just something that you have. But, agents want to know that you do have that and that you can fill the screen and that you can act. And that's one of the things that they're going to look for immediately is a reel. So what I had to do was I had to start building these reels with non-union work. I had to, find friends that were shooting things and network with young filmmakers and get into student films and do anything that I could to get on camera. Now, fortunately, like I said, I had come from the other side of the camera, and so I knew a lot of filmmakers, and I had done a lot of filmmaking myself. And so what I did for some of it was I just shot my own stuff, and I wrote my own stuff, and I shot it, and I got people together and friends that I knew who were directors of photography and gaffers and sound people, and I did my own projects, and I got my own pieces together. And then as time went along and I was building these reels and able to use the pieces that I got, I would book things. I would book non-union parts. I did one that was, I think it was Smirnoff. It was a short piece that they were doing these short films for, and I got in there and I got a good speaking role in that. And, I did a couple other pieces that were non-union that I was able to grab and put in my reel, and I was able to put a reel together. It takes time. None of this, happened for me quickly. It took a lot of time for me to kind of piece these things together, but eventually I kind of got this solid reel together. This is one of the other reasons why I was smart in waiting to join the union, because if I had joined the union prior to having this reel together, I'd be sunk, because you can't book without a reel, and you can't get a reel without booking, you know what I mean? So I really focused on piecing that reel together and doing whatever I could do to grab pieces and to get people together and to jump into non-union work and student pieces and all this stuff to build a reel. I found that there's no real one size fits all path on how to do that. It's just figuring things out for yourself. And I'll talk a little bit more about that and that whole process a little bit later, with regards to how that fits into getting your union cards and things like that. But one of the big things that I had learned was that from talking to Jeffrey and talking to other people, is that this business is all about networking, right? And it's all about asking people who do know what you need to do. And you'll find those people. And there's other people who won't want to help you because nobody helped them. But there are people out there who are going to want to help. They do want to help people, succeed in this business. Because, look, if you succeeded and I helped you, hopefully down the line, you'll be in a position to help me. I learned that asking is okay. and asking the question and not needing to know everything and not needing to put out that I know everything, but I think people really kind of are attracted to humility in this business too. There's a lot of really arrogant people in this town, but the humble people are the ones that people are really attracted to, and being able to say to somebody, hey, you know what? I don't know what to do here. Can you help me? People, you'll find, will jump in and say, yeah, this is what you need to do. I'll give you, people will give advice, at the drop of a hat in this town. And listening to that advice is very important. So anyway, after I got all that together, I got my reel together, I got my good headshots together, I got an Actors Access account. You need that Actors Access account. Once I had those things together, it was time for me to start approaching representation. So I had a whole system on how I first started approaching agents and how that all worked out. And I was successful straight out of the gate. First time out in approaching agents, I got, I think, 3 different meetings with agents straight out of the gate. And I'll talk about that one on the next vlog, and I'll tell you how I did that. It's not that hard to do. And if you got the right tools in place, you can get an agent. Talk about it next time.